Stop. Look at this picture on the screen right now. Think about what you see. We're going to go back to this at the end of this episode. Perception is not always reality.
I have a dream. May the Lord strike your mother and your father down. Ain't gonna be no peace. I have a dream.
You got all these dirty ass crackers with a red Make America Great hat again on.
I have a dream.
Look at all these dusty ass crackers with that racist garbage on. Y'all got one nigga in the crowd, huh?
One nigga in the crowd.
One nigga.
I have a dream.
Stick my foot in your little ass.
A bunch of babies made out of insects.
Get your old Uncle Tom ass out of here.
I have a dream. I have a dream. I have a dream.
Howdy, y'all. Welcome back to the Wright Brothers. It is great to be back with you again this week. First and foremost, shout out to all of our members in the tribe. We love you, and we could not do any of this without all of y'all's wonderful, wonderful support. If this is your first time watching, please feel free to press that subscribe button. Membership in our tribe is completely free, and each and every one of you who presses that button and joins our community helps us truly make free thought great again. Now, without further ado, here at the Wright Brothers, we always do our best to make sure that we don't jump the gun. Because so often in the news cycles, you'll hear about something one minute and the next thing you know, it's national news. And what we don't want to do is fall prey to the trap of preemptive journalism. And if that makes sense, what we're saying is we don't want to jump the shark before all the information comes to light. We talk about due diligence on this channel all the time. Due diligence is extremely important, and this was recently evidenced by the events that transpired in our nation's capital recently with the Covington Catholic high school students and a group of ne'er-do-wells who felt the need to accost them. But we're going to jump into that right now. So I'm going to give you the first bit, and then my older brother, the elder felder, he is here. He is in the building. He will give you his take here as well and shed some extra color. But first things first, we had some students from Covington Catholic High School in Kentucky who made the trip up to DC to participate in the March for Life. This is a well-known, well-documented event that usually happens once per year where people get together to really advocate for those who have no voice, which is the unborn. So as these students were milling around, basically minding their own business, ostensibly, what happened was they were actually approached by some people who took great umbrage and great offense with their choice of headwear. And they were all wearing MAGA hats, or most of them were. But what really boiled it down to was one single image or a few seconds of a video that was taken showing an elderly man in an intense stare down with one of the students from the school, and the entire internet just exploded. We had people, calling for these kids' heads almost in a literal sense. And then we had people coming to the defense of the people who it appeared these children were harassing and accosting. But as you'll see at the end of this episode, this is anything but the truth. So there was a group that was there at this event, and they are called the Black Israelites. To be completely honest with you, I had never heard of this group until this event transpired. But the Black Israelites were there, and they felt the need to go out of their way to verbally abuse these children. Bear in mind, these are still children. These are high school students. And some of the epithets that you saw in the intro bit that we played really goes to show how low these people went to attack children. These are full-grown adults, and they felt the need to go out of their way to verbally abuse children just because of their own political views. That doesn't really make any sense. That has no place in the world of civil political discourse. But with all this happening, then even more transpired that led this event to the real seminal moment of what really blew it completely out of the water. And for more on that, I want to throw the floor over to Eddie now.
Yeah, I mean, the story itself, it started off with a bang and continued to gather steam, rolling downhill like a snowball, rolling up to the image that we all know of the Native American man, Nathan Phillips, standing in front of the Covington High student who's wearing a MAGA hat and not really doing anything, just has a smile on his face while Mr. Phillips bangs his drum. But what's really interesting is the way it was characterized in the wake of the incident. Nathan Phillips basically made it seem as if the kids were blocking his way to the Lincoln Memorial. That's not the case at all. As Damani said, it was a group of frankly, virulently racist black Israelites, as they call themselves, that were instigating and using some of the most foul, vile, racist language that I've been unfortunate to hear. The full video is online, towards these school children as they waited for their chaperone to get a bus for them. That commotion is what attracted Mr. Phillips over to them, and then the confrontation ensued from there. The interesting thing is the way Mr. Phillips couches himself and the way he allows the media to couch himself. As many of y'all know, I am a military veteran. I served in the Air Force for a relatively short period of time, a little over 4 years, which actually was about the same amount of time that Mr. Phillips was in the Marine Corps. However, he always refers to himself as a Vietnam era vet. And there's a little bit of interplay with terminology. Actually, Vietnam vet and Vietnam era vet are both used by the Department of Veterans Affairs to designate those who served in the Vietnam conflict. Phillips served from 72 to 76, and the conflict, the last soldiers came out of the theater in 73. So clearly, and it's come out since then, we have his DD 214, which is the form that every separated service member gets when they leave the service. I have one myself. The record of his service doesn't show him in the theater of Vietnam, and if you look at the words he uses, this is not the first time Mr. Phillips has been in the news. He chooses his words very carefully to allow people to infer that he served in Vietnam as a veteran, as a combat veteran, without actually stating it, and then never offers to correct anyone who runs with that supposition. For me personally, and for most vets, that claiming a theater in which you did not serve is looked down, is very much looked down upon, because what you do, you kind of ride the coattails of those who went and risked their lives, and then try to claim some of that grandeur for yourself, for your own personal benefit. And we've seen it. Mr. Phillips is not the first. He's not going to be the last to do this stolen valor routine. But what it does underscore is the importance of representing yourself honestly to the media, and then not allowing the media to run with their characterization of you. Mr. Phillips has been a rabble rouser for a long time. He had an incident in 2012 where he accosted a group of college students up in Michigan and tried to make it appear as if he was the victim of racism up there. Even the day after the incident at the Capitol, he and a group of protesters were seen causing a disturbance at a Catholic mass at a memorial. And it's a pattern of behavior that he calls himself an activist, but really when you dig down to it, this is a man who was a refrigerator mechanic in the Marine Corps. And again, there's nothing wrong with the method of service, but let's call it what it is. A refrigerator mechanic who managed to go AWOL in a 4-year span. AWOL is absent without leave, which is a serious offense in the military, by the way. He managed to do that 3 separate times. Again, this is not to denigrate his service. This is to give you a fuller picture of who he is and who he purports himself to be. This is a man who saw a disturbance with people he disagreed with politically and took it upon himself to go over and confront. There's video of him rushing over to confront the students who were minding their own business, as Damani said. And this brings me to my next point. Mr. Phillips aside, he's a rabble rouser. He's a known rabble rouser. The comportment of the school children in the video, and if you read the statement from the student who was standing in front of Mr. Phillips, it really lends a lot of credence to how they were brought up. The way they reacted is exactly the way you should react when someone is coming up into your face and trying to provoke you. He didn't rise to the bait. They didn't start hurling insults back. They started doing their own school chants, which are obviously positive, full of their own school spirit. They did this to drown out the racism that was being hurled their way, that the media conveniently did not report on at first, and still is downplaying to an alarming degree. But even that image of placidity, him just standing there basically taking abuse verbal abuse from a man who's banging a drum in his face is remarkable. And I can't speak highly enough of his family, his school, and his parents. At one point, one of his classmates even tried to confront Mr. Phillips, and he turned around and told him, no, don't worry about it. Let's not make this into more than it is. He felt that they were being baited into something, and obviously that's exactly what transpired. But for him to have, as Rudyard Kipling says, to be able to keep his head when all around him were losing theirs and blaming it on him, that was just crystallized in his demeanor in that moment. And I think that's something that we should all take away from the story at the end of the day, beyond the media's attempt to shape the story as they wished. If you're confronted in public, be very, very careful of how you respond, because how you respond is going to reflect not only on yourself, but on your political side, especially if it's in a political environment. You know, him wearing a MAGA hat, that's something very important. And I think that at the end of the day, that is going to be my takeaway. So Damani, what are some of your takeaways, and how can we combat this as identity politics rages on in this country?
No, I share your thoughts on that. I think it is of paramount importance to remember that it is up to you to maintain your composure and your demeanor, especially when you are being baited into a situation that you know is going to be publicized. Anything that has to do with Trump, we are already aware that people are almost desperate for any reason to hate on the Trump supporters, and you don't want to give them what they're looking for. So to Eddie's point, the way Nick Sandmann chose to comport himself was actually admirable. And it's been told that they're actually on their way to the White House in the coming days or weeks, who knows when. But it was announced by Laura Ingraham that they will be going to the White House at some point to meet with the president and speak more about this encounter. But I think what's most important is we need to remember that the last thing you want to do is do exactly what the sanctimonious liberal mob does, which is immediately virtue signal and then go out of your way before you know the facts to assume something about someone else with whom you have a disagreement. So there's so many different ways you can handle this, but the last thing you want to do is jump the gun, as we saw everyone do, and not wait for all the facts to come out before you cast judgment. Because let's be honest, we don't want to cast stones. We all live in glass houses of some sort, and that's the last we want to engage in public discourse. So think back to that picture that we showed you in the beginning. Remember the picture that we showed. Now look at what the picture actually represented. And this is exactly what the liberal media, or the mainstream media in general, will do. Is they will cherry pick and they will choose what they want you to see. They will give you the lens, and then they will expect you to fall in line with whatever the narrative is. You should question the narrative and always do your due diligence first. Only way we're going to make free thought great again is by being willing to have the conversation. All we ask is that you contribute to that conversation. So what I want you to do is let me know what your thoughts are on this whole situation in general. How do you think the students handled themselves? How do you feel about the Black Israelites and then Nathan Phillips going out of his way to cause controversy and consternation? We want to hear from you. But we're going to wrap this video up right now. So we appreciate y'all taking this time to join us. All of y'all mean the world to us. We love engaging with you. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page, The Wright Brothers IPID, where you can engage with us on a deeper level there. And also our Patreon page for those inclined to give us a financial donation to help sponsor and subsidize future content. We're always looking for ways to upgrade, and we appreciate those of you who have already taken it upon yourselves to help support us in this fashion. But we appreciate each and every one of y'all. Y'all have a great rest of the day or night. And without further ado, thanks and gig 'em.
Thanks and gig 'em.
The first revolution is when you change your mind about how you look at things and see that there might be another way to look at it that you have not been shown. Revolution will not be televised, and be